Today on Pro Church Daily, we're talking about 5 easy ways to write better headlines in 2018.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Daily, the show where in 10 minutes or less you'll get your daily dose of tips and tactics to help your church share the message of Jesus while we navigate the biggest communication shift we've seen in the last 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills. I'm joined as always by the boss man, it's Brady Shearer, and today we're talking about 5 easy ways to write better headlines in 2018.
Headlines are so incredibly useful across any number of mediums when it comes to communication. You can use them obviously in emails that you send out for your church, blog posts, social media captions, podcast episodes. Headlines have any number of uses. So we want to give you some actionable tips to writing better headlines in 2018.
Sweet.
And before we get into the real 5, I want to actually talk about that first one as a bonus. And I didn't want to use 6 great headlines in 2018 for a reason. We'll get to that.
Okay.
But the bonus is that if you ever add the year at the end of a headline, it adds a time limit and a sort of time, like a timeliness that adds a bit of urgency to reading it. You're like, oh, this is good, but it's only good for this year. I need to read about it now. Bonus tip for your headlines, adding the year. We did that in this headline. These headline tips will still be good in 2019.
Oh, there you go.
But
Imagine
we put
that.
in 2018 and you clicked it. Joke's on you. Number 1, using a numbered list. We did this in this headline, 5 easy ways to write better headlines. Conductor did a study and found that headlines with numbers resonated the most with readers, more than how-tos, more than question types of headlines. The most popular types of headlines were numbered lists. BuzzFeed has built their entire empire on numbered lists and then quizzes. And the reason for this is because there is a limit on the headline. When you go into any type of action, clicking on a link, reading a blog post, listening to a podcast, you never might know when that is actually going to end. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. When you give a headline such as 5 ways to write better headlines in 2018, before you ever click on the podcast or the video for this episode of Pro Church Daily, there's already a limit set in your mind. You know what's about to happen, and there's also a promise that I've given you. I'm going to give you 5 things that you can do to improve your headlines in 2018. So there's a promise there that the reader can then respond to, listener can respond to, viewer can respond to, but there's also a limit that makes a certain determination in a person's mind. There's that level of predictability.
Yeah.
We all like predictability, and adding numbered lists is one way to do that.
I like this one because it gives your users like actionable steps that they can even skim. So like in this age of stopping the scroll, and we do this on Instagram, stopping the scroll to get you to read the caption. Like often we're writing pretty lengthy captions, but if it's 5 ways or 3 ways, you can skim right to those 3 actionable steps and you can read them. You can skip the intro, skip the outro, and just read those steps and put them to use right away, because we're scrolling through media so quickly now. Sometimes we only just need those 3 steps and move along. And so I really like just splitting it up into actionable things to choose from.
That's great. Headline tip number 2, use superlatives such as easy, best, worst, free, beautiful, ugly. We used a superlative in this headline, 5 easy ways to write better headlines in 2018. Superlatives add a little bit of excitement to your headline, they add a little bit more of a promise, and they just boost the overall sexiness of the headline.
Nice.
Number 3, audience specific. Audience specificity. So an example of this would be 19 events families in Mobile love to attend. We are living through the biggest communication shift in the last 500 years, and we have never been at any point in human history, bombarded with the pure volume of promotions, advertisements, and messages that we have to live through every single day. And one way that our brains and minds have adapted to this is that we just tune a ton of stuff out.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times what you're trying to do with social, stop the scroll, or with a headline, which is to break through that default setting of I'm ignoring this, is to call out something. So if you're scrolling through Facebook and you see, hey, people in Niagara. You're like, oh, I live in Niagara. This must be for me. Or if you're scrolling through Facebook, you're like, hey, pastors, we've got a great new tip for you. You're like, I'm a pastor. And you stop. Calling out your audience specifically is a great way to break through that default setting of I'm ignoring everything because it's the only way I can survive.
Right. And like you said it, there's just so much noise going on and so much of what we see on our feeds is not applicable to us.
True.
And so we don't know how to weed through it. We just don't have the time to weed through it. So on first glance, if I can see, oh yeah, this is written for pastors, this is applicable to me, you're going to get me clicking.
Number 4, how-tos. Alternative options for this are the 5-minute guide, the beginner's guide, DIY. Classic example of this is Dale Carnegie's all-time book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. A how-to, a DIY guide, a beginner's guide. It gives readers a sense of power and capability. I know nothing about tools. Literally nothing. So if you put together a guide called How to Patch the Giant Crack in Your Daughter's Bedroom, I'll be like, really? I have the power to do that? Because I don't feel very powerful about that. I feel powerless. You create a how-to, and it gives someone a sense of entitlement and capability. I can do this. You empower that individual, and you're tapping into something great with that.
Yep. Even if they probably shouldn't be repairing the crack in their daughter's room and should be paying somebody else to do it.
Which you're still going to. There's a reason that article does not exist, because it should not.
Exactly.
Final headline writing tip for 2018 that will expire on December 31st. Psych, it'll keep existing on. Number 5 is negativity. And we want to give a disclaimer that you need to be extremely careful and use this rarely because you can abuse it. But Outbrain looked at 65,000 headlines, and headlines with negative superlatives had a 63% higher click-through rate than headlines with positive superlatives. For instance, if I create a blog post called The Best Font for Churches in 2018, and I create a blog post called The Worst Font Your Church Could Ever Use in 2018, I can guarantee you the worst font will get clicked. And we actually did this. One of the most popular articles that I ever wrote in my first couple of years of running this company was the worst font that churches continue to use, and it was all about papyrus. And that email had a crazy click-through rate, and people loved it because using negativity taps into our own insecurities and our fear of being left out, being wrong, looking stupid, doing things that no one else knows how to do, or that everyone else knows but we don't know. And so you want to be very, very careful with this. You don't want to overuse it. Use it very sparingly, and only use it when the actual result is a positive result. So for instance, you'd be like, the worst marriage mistake that I made in my 20s. And then you talk about one thing that you did that was really sucky that hopefully someone else can glean from and then prevent them from doing in the future. So just because it's negative doesn't mean that you should avoid it, but you can overuse this and you can bastardize it, and you don't want to do that. Use it sparingly, use it appropriately.
Yeah, I just want to echo that disclaimer. When it's church specific, there's some language I see online often when it comes to advertising your church service or an experience you're having that says you don't want to miss this.
Ooh.
And
that's a whole episode.
Right, and maybe it will be a whole episode, but we want to be very cautious as churches, not guilting people.
Don't use consequences to spur action.
Yeah, and so that kind of negativity when it comes to churches is a no-go.
Especially false consequences, because if someone doesn't attend your event,
they're going to be
miss
just fine.
Nothing.
Yeah. So a word of caution, which I think we've articulated well, but there are instances, and I think the one you brought, the example you gave is a great one. You know, like the worst marriage mistake I made in my 20s. That's a great mistake that can lead to like really great growth and really positive outcomes, but just something to be really mindful of if you are going to use it.
So to do a quick recap, the bonus tip, using a year at the end or within your headline, just adds a little bit of timeliness and urgency to readers. And then the 5 tips: numbered list. Number 1. Number 2, superlatives. Number 3, audience specificity. Number 4, how-tos. And number 5, negativity. 5 ways to write better headlines for your social media captions, for your emails, for your blog posts, for your podcasts, for your podcasts, and beyond. Use them. Do not abuse them.
Nice.
That'll do it for today's episode of Pro Church Daily. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, thanks for watching today's episode of Pro Church Daily. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another one.
And if you like this video, it would mean the world to us if you give it a thumbs up.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.